When 26-year-old Terrence Woods goes missing on a TV set in Idaho after running off into the woods, some say it may have been caused by a mental health crisis. But is there more to the story? Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to my channel and Killer Concepts, the place where we talk about all things true crime. My name is Peyton. Before we get started, please make sure to hit that red subscribe button down below and turn on your post notifications so you do not miss any future content. Today we are talking about the disappearance of Terrence Woods. Woods was 26 when he disappeared in the Idaho wilderness while employed as a production assistant for Raw TV during the first season filming of Discovery Channel's Gold Rush, Turins Lost Mine. Terrence still has not been located today, and his family is still advocating for him and trying to get more answers about what happened. The family really believes there is more to the story than what they are being told. So we're going to start this video by talking about who Terrence Woods was, what happened or what supposedly happened the day Terrence went missing, and then we will get into what the police thinks happened, possible scenarios, and what Terrence's family believes may have happened. If you or anyone you know may have information regarding Terrence Woods' disappearance, please contact Idaho County Sheriff's Office at 208-983-1100. Now let's jump right on into it. Terrence Woods was born on October 24th, 1991. He was raised in Prince George's County, Maryland by his parents alongside his younger brother, Joseph. Prince George's County is a very pretty county in Maryland. They have a beautiful equestrian center that I have shown my horse at, or a horse I previously had, and it's just a nice area. According to Terrence's father, Terrence Woods Sr., quote, "It was the two of them, always. It's always been them," end quote. Terrence and Joseph were very close. His father also said the following about him to Dateline, quote, "He was a go-getter. He loved reading. He loved the outdoors. He loved snow. He loved playing with his brother," end quote. Terrence wanted to be a film producer, and he would end up studying broadcast journalism at the University of Maryland. One of his professors and mentor, Bethany Swain, would tell Dateline that he was a standout student. When Terrence would graduate in 2013 with his bachelor's in broadcast journalism, he would move to London. Here he would earn a master's degree in international relations. By all accounts, Terrence Woods seemed to be a very bright and promising young adult, and anyone who knew him described him as such. A woman by the name of Joanna, please forgive me if I mispronounce your last name, Ibeyi, a recruiter for independent production companies, would help him launch his career in the television and film industry. She would tell Dateline that all the feedback she received from his employers was glowing. He had been working as a freelance production assistant and had worked on high-profile shows such as ITV's The Voice UK. He would live in the UK for 5 years. In July of 2018, Terrence Woods would return home to start a new chapter in his life. But it wouldn't be long before he would be back to work. He would end up getting a contract working as a production assistant on a spin-off series to Discovery's Gold Rush, produced by Raw TV. Terrence had previously worked with Raw TV in the UK. This new spin-off would be for Gold Rush Turins Lost Mine. Filming was being done at Penman Mine, an abandoned gold mine in Idaho County. But what seemed like an exciting new opportunity would soon turn sour. Terrence would fly to Idaho on September 20th, 2018. His father, Woods Sr., would tell Dateline, quote, "He said, 'See you later.' I said, 'See you sooner,' and we laughed about it, and I hugged him," end quote. 26-year-old Woods would be one of a 12-member crew that would head into the forest, but was the only one who would never return. On October 6, 2018, Woods Sr. would get a call from Raw TV producer Simon G. G would tell him that his son disappeared the night of October 5th. More specifically, they would say Terrence took off down the side of a mountain and couldn't be located after. Quote, "Seen my son running down the cliff like a hare," end quote, is what Woods Sr. was told that G had seen. The whole story seemed strange to his father. So let's talk about what was reported about the actual incident. According to Dateline, on the morning of October 5th, the day Terrence went missing, he would text his father and let him know that he would be cutting his time on the set short by several weeks. This was a little unusual as he seemed pretty excited for the opportunity. The text didn't really give a reason as to why, but apparently in an email he had sent to Raw, it had to do with him wanting to go home and see his mother in Maryland as she was experiencing some health issues. Valerie, his mother, was originally to have surgery, but this would change, and she had reportedly let Terrence know this. That same day, in the early evening, while shooting was happening in the Aurora Grande woods, Terrence would ask where the bathroom was, and then would shock all of the staff by apparently running into the woods. Terrence was reported to have ditched his radio in the dirt and then would just take off running down the side of a steep cliff before disappearing into the forest. This is the same story that multiple witnesses told the Idaho County Sheriff's Office. Keep in mind, most of these witnesses worked for Raw TV, not all, but most. It was also reported that the staff would follow him into the woods to try and locate him for a while until they lost sight of him and turned back. This is when a large search would ensue. The police would start a 7-day search of the area, and Raw TV would provide assistance as well as many locals. Police would bring in dogs and helicopter crews to look for Terrence, but they would find almost nothing. The only lead they even had was that the dogs kept hitting one spot and catching Terrence's scent that was along the side of the road, but then it would end. They said there had been like a little bit of a slide mark there, like he may have slid down there, but then they just completely lost his scent. That was it. This is what would originally make Sheriff Doug Giddings believe that Terrence must have ran off and then gotten in a car and just drove off, never to be heard from again. They actually believe he didn't want to be found. I have to stop and say that during the Dateline Missing in America episode about Terrence, I really did not appreciate, and I'm sure his family did not appreciate, the way Giddings spoke about the situation. He basically said he believed Terrence just ran off, got in a car, didn't want to be found, didn't want contact with his parents. He sounded very matter of fact about it, even if they do not have real proof of this scenario. The only thing they have is the search dog taking them to a spot on the road. This may be his opinion on what may have happened, but I feel the way he describes it is very insensitive to the family who is still missing a loved one till this day. Giddings basically said that he understands that the family and his parents want more information, because who wouldn't if they were missing a loved one, and they want to explain away the strange disappearance. But he basically said he has done all that he can for what had happened. But some locals from the area said they don't think Terrence would have been able to just run off as fast as they say he did. It is uneven terrain out there and very thick brush. Sheriff Giddings himself said the following, quote, "It's rough country and there are mine shafts up there. All kinds of things could have happened, but we searched for him." End quote. When I listened to Dateline Missing in America, in the podcast episode about Terrence Woods, a man who was staying with his wife in a nearby cabin, and he would be the one that would end up giving the satellite phone to G to call, he ended up aiding in the search for Terrence, and he brought up the possibility that Terrence could have maybe fallen down a mine shaft, just like Giddings brought up. There apparently was a mine shaft on the top of the mine that they were working at for the show, and the local also said that there were many other mine shafts throughout those woods that weren't marked, and you could have easily fallen in them, and if you fell in them, you might not be able to to get back out. So if Terrence would have fallen in one, he may have not been able to get out. I could see this being a possibility, especially if the area didn't close them completely. There is an old iron ore mine in my area, and they blew up all but, I believe it's like 2 entrances to the mines, or the 2 that are open actually might not be mines. They might be cave entrances. I might be wrong. And they are all labeled. Not only was this done for people's safety in this area, but it has turned into a public park. So it is also being used for education, and they have a map that everybody can look at and know exactly where they're located. So I could see if these were not labeled, how somebody could easily fall into one. So what do Terrence's parents think about their son's disappearance and the story surrounding it? Well, they think there is much more that they aren't being told. Maybe even the possibility of foul play. Woods Sr. told Menankowitz from Dateline the following about his call with G, Raw TV's producer, who I mentioned earlier, the one that called to tell the family about their son's disappearance. Quote, he said they was out in the field and my son didn't know what battery to get because he was green. This is his first time doing this. No, it was not my son's first time doing it. My son's first time ever being with this guy, and this is you calling me to tell me my son disappeared. But this is how you're starting the conversation off. Your personal feelings about him. You're telling me about your personal negative feelings about him, end quote. In conversations with witnesses there the day of his son's disappearance, Woods Sr. also says he was told Terrence seemed to have an anxiety attack the morning he went missing. The question is why. According to Terrence's parents, they didn't believe the son they knew and loved suffered from panic attacks, and so they thought it was very unusual. Vice reports that the 911 caller when Terrence disappeared, who was not part of the Raw TV crew, alleged that Terrence had been dealing with mental health issues throughout the shoot, but then when Terrence's family pushed to have these statements confirmed, they were retracted. The caller basically said that he didn't know why he said that. He may have misunderstood the situation, and Simon G vows that he did not say anything about a breakdown. This is very odd to me. If he had a mental health crisis or breakdown, what reason would you have to retract the statements unless it's not true? Terrence's parents also had a really hard time getting anyone who was there the day of the event to speak with them, except 3 employees from Raw TV. This is because the crew was sent home. Interestingly enough, the crew also brought 2 rental cars to the site when they arrived in Idaho, but left one behind when they left. That's just some food for thought. You can do with it what you please. When Terrence Sr. and Valerie Woods would fly out to Idaho a couple days after his disappearance, this is when they would finally get to talk to someone. This would be Simon G, again the one who notified them of Terrence's disappearance, and 2 other Raw executives. This meeting between the family and Raw TV would happen at the sheriff's office. Deadline reported that both Sheriff Giddings and Woods Sr. said this was not an easy discussion and just did not go very well. G had apparently described Terrence Jr. as being a, quote, disappointment to him and, quote, didn't live up to my expectations, end quote. Terrence's mother described the encounter as a very cold interview. Raw reports that G did not say he was disappointed in the missing young man during their communications. However, he did recall saying to Woods Sr., quote, that his son appeared distracted at times, but this was in order to establish whether it was out of character. Raw also acknowledged that Woods struggled with some tasks over his 6 days with the team, but he was offered support and his performance improved, end quote. When Woods Sr. and Valerie Woods heard this from Raw TV, they became concerned as to how their son may have been being treated on set. They believed that their son may have saw something he wasn't supposed to, and that was why he wanted to leave. They think it could possibly be foul play, and they're just trying to cover it up. The family just wants to cover all bases. They are just there are so many theories and possibilities with this case. When reporters spoke to Giddings about this theory, he pushed it to the side. He said that Raw TV had been nothing but cooperative. There was no evidence to support even thinking there may have been foul play. In fact, Raw TV's cast and crew members hung around for a couple days to even help aid in the search. The sheriff did say that there seemed to be a weird dynamic between Terrence and the rest of the Raw crew. He told Deadline, quote, "My interpretation of what they said is that the kid was a little bit different. He came into the group late and there were questions about some of his behaviors, but nothing that was blown up as big as what they, the family, tried to make out of it. We determined that he wasn't happy there and that there were several people who weren't happy with him." End quote. After they packed up and headed to their next location, nobody could really get them to talk to them. But it isn't just the parents who had this problem speaking to those there the day of the incident. While listening to Fox 5's podcast Missing Pieces into the Woods, this seemed to be a problem for them as well. The only person they were able to get a hold of was one of the locals. Everyone else refused to speak to them about the incident. This local would be a woman by the name of Cherie. Cherie was the person who was renting ATVs and vehicles to the crew. Per Cherie's interview with Fox 5's Melanie Alnwick, Cherie said that she remembered on the day of the incident Simon G saying that they had a runner. When she would ask G what he meant, he would say that he had seen this kind of thing before, that he snapped. According to Cherie, G handles the situation very well. And immediately he got everyone to go into the woods after Terrence and to try and get him. She remembers G telling everyone not to call out Terrence's name, as this may only spook him more and make him continue to flee. G apparently had taken training in search and rescue at some point, and this is something that he was taught. And that. Cherie said he is also the one who found a local in a nearby cabin to call 911 from his satellite phone. From what she saw, the producer did everything correctly. In her conversation with Melanie, she also talks about watching Terrence on set. She remembered at first thinking he was new because of the behavior that he was exhibiting. She told Melanie that she remembers G asking Terrence to get him a camera lens and him having to ask several times before Terrence would do it. She remembered the same type of thing happening when G asked for a sweatshirt. He reportedly was not acting on this set with the level of expertise that he actually did, having done this job before, and was not acting at the level that he was recommended to the Raw producers as having. So as for the others who wouldn't speak to the family, I understand people may want to move on and distance themselves from something traumatic like this, but why wouldn't they be willing to tell the family what they had seen? Were they bound by some kind of commitment they had with Raw TV? I'm just thinking out loud here. If this was an accident, as they said, and Terrence really just ran into the woods like was reported, and they all said he did, then why not be open to talking about it, especially when his family just wants to find their son? As for the comments about Terrence being a little weird and different, anyone who was close to him or knew him were very surprised by that. This includes his professional mentors who helped him get the job in the first place. He had come highly recommended. Nobody who seemed to be close to him understood what they were hearing because it didn't sound like the Terrence that they knew, especially when he was in a professional setting. Not only is Terrence's family still really upset about his disappearance, but his friends are as well. These people just want answers. If this was my sister or one of my family members, then I would still be shaking the trees too. I don't think I would ever stop searching. One last thing. In the Fox 5 podcast, there was also something that was very interesting Melanie talked about. And this was Terrence's personal journal and an entry that was in it called the, quote, Great Reset, end quote. This is the only thing that would maybe back up Terrence actually wanting to disappear, but that really depends on how you take it. The Great Reset talks about Terrence moving back to the US and basically starting over. The following quotes from the journal explain what the Great Reset is. Quote, excuse to lose contact with people who you shouldn't be in contact with, end quote. Quote, want to be left alone and make enough money and live comfortably, end quote. End quote, time to find a new unconditional family, end quote. On top of this journal entry, when Terrence went missing, so did his passport and wallet. I want to make it very clear, I am not by any means saying that Terrence just walked away from everything. You can come up with any conclusion you want to or any theory you want to. I just want to give you all the information that I read or that I listened to. I just hope that if something like this did happen, he will eventually reach back out to his family and let them know he is okay. If foul play happened or if Terrence is deceased, I hope that someone finds him and that his family finds him and they can get some kind of closure. Just like always, my heart goes out to this family as I can't imagine what they are going through missing their loved one, and I truly do hope he can be located. So on October 5th, 2024, it will have been 6 years since 26-year-old Terrence Woods Jr. disappeared. If you or anyone you know may have information regarding Terrence Woods' disappearance, please call Idaho County Sheriff's Office at 208-983-1100. With that being said, that is all I have for you today. Please make sure you are subscribed to my channel so you do not miss any future content. If you have any case suggestions, please comment them down below or send them to killerconceptsvlog@gmail.com. If you would like to connect with me on social, all of the links are down below as well as all of the sources for today's video. Before you go, just remember that the world's most dangerous minds hide in the most unlikely places. Stay safe.